See who comes in. How do I do comments again? Comments. More comments. Hey, unpaved explorer. I'm doing okay. No serious health issues right now. Trying to let a few more people come in. I'm gonna try to do my live feeds between the 19th and the 26th, whichever weekend falls in that range. And that way, when I do the live stream, most people couldn't expect me between those weekends. And then there's less guessing when. Thank you. And after, see, I'm going to give it like maybe 5 minutes, just do low key chatting, see who else comes in here, and then I'll start the stuff with the poems. I have a poem that I was introduced to when I was 5th grade, 10 years old, and I guess I could do some of the live streams unscheduled, but so many people have pop up live streams that I figure if I at least give people a chance to figure out when I might pop up, they might be waiting for me. Now, hopefully, I took like little screenshots of the poems, a couple sample poems from the author, so I could read a couple of the other poems and reference the author. I believe the author's name is um, Shel Silverstein. I believe I'm saying it right. So the pop up live streams get more views. Trying to see if StreamYard's a little slow on letting me know the scheduled ones. Okay, the scheduled ones get more views. So that way, if everybody knows that usually show up between 1 and 2 on the Saturday of between the 19th or the Saturday of the 19th, whichever, if either the Saturday falls on the 19th or the Saturday is after 19th, that following Saturday is usually one that I pick for my live streams. And it's only once a month, so that's all I can afford right now. I just have data in the area that I stay in to stay cool right now. Doesn't have very good connection. So I'm either having to find someone like a relative that I'm staying with at that time, visiting them, and set up a live stream during that time, or um, I go hang out with my brother. He usually gets like a random hotel, like just to like relax, to stay close to work because his drive is like 45 minutes one way, and sometimes he don't want to travel back because he gets off at like 12 a.m., 1 a.m. So I'm like, hey, can I just jump in on this little relaxed session, and then I get to set up my live streams. So until I get Wi-Fi, which will probably be quite a few months from now, then I'll be doing it that way. But when I do get live feed, it'd be cooler. I'll probably be doing my live streams from my van. Right now, it's just too hot. I don't have any finances to get air conditioning or some other cooling system from a van, and the van has like a lot of windows, and I don't have the materials to do blackout curtains yet. So I'm working on it, seeing what temperatures I can handle, and looking into the stuff that most everybody else uses, like blackout curtains. The fan worked okay until I got to above 80, and then I was like, nope, this is too hot. Um, I guess it's been 5 minutes, so I'll just start on the poetry and see if I can find it in my, because I forgot I reset my phone. So now I got to look for the screenshot I took. Let's see. Oops. There we go. There we are. Okay. So the poem is called Listen to the Mustn't's Child. Listen to the mustn't's child. Listen to the don'ts. Listen to the shouldn't haves. Listen to the shouldn'ts, the possibles, the wants. Listen to the never haves. Then listen close to me. Anything can happen, child. Anything can be. And that's by Shel Silverstein, and it's spelled Shel. And that poem, the fifth grade teacher that introduced it to her class, her name was Miss Evans. Um, she's the one I would never forget, and she also introduced us to other books like Roald Dahl, who did Matilda, James and the Giant Peach. What was another one? Those are the ones I knew the most. Those are the ones I reread after she read them to us. And what was the other one? I can't remember the other one. It had a name of somebody that um had something to do with a abusive head mistress of I think child orphanage, but I can't remember the name of that book. So Roald Dahl is one of my favorite. Your fifth grade teacher was Miss Evans too. That's kind of weird. I was 10 years old. I was living in Benton, Arkansas, and going to the name of the school is Andy Grant. I don't know how many Miss Evans becomes teachers, but I know there's quite a few over the years. I've heard other Miss Evanses their teachers, and she read to us a book every week, and she was the one that like encouraged us to go to the book fairs and figured out ways for us to get free books. Like I remember that reading program they had where if you read books, you got free pizza, and then they would provide a free book at the fair for a child. So you get a random free book. And another one, I remember a book that she read to us was Freckle Juice. I had that book. I don't know what happened to it. I moved when I got younger. When I got older. And I don't know where that book went to, but I started to collect all of the Roald Dahl books, like most of the ones that she read to us. And she did a challenge to have us read a book that was older than our age group. And one of the first ones that she found that I had read before she introduced us to was um, White Fang. I believe I read it or read most of it. Is it White Fang or was the other one? White Fang Buck. About Buck the what was that one? During the gold rush times. I can't believe I just blanked on that book. I can always remember the title White Fame. I can't remember the other one because my brain just focused on that. Had to do with sled dogs during that time, and then there was some of the projects that she had us do. She would encourage us to be as descriptive as possible, whether it was English or history. And so eventually she gave us a challenge that if we can write 12 pages front and back, then she would publish it. And there was a couple of students in our class that did, and their stories were so good that they published it. They made it like school books. I have mine, which I eventually will read. I found it. I've been looking for it. It disappears and finds and shows up again. So this time I like took screenshots or pictures of the book. So if the book disappears, I have it on my drive because it's just weird. The book just shows up, disappears, shows disappear. My sister loved the book so much. She's like, you should get this published. So I will definitely try to see about getting it published. Um, I'm gonna look into some online apps right now since everything's on my phone. It's hard to upload stuff and it's hard to like really go through everything. If I had Wi-Fi, I could probably figure it out, but with data, everything's super slow, and you get frustrated trying to get through the super slow stuff. It says we have another viewer here, but I haven't seen any other comments. So I'll just say hello, hello, and welcome. I'm gonna read one more. No, I actually got about three more others, but I'm gonna read one more and wait a couple more minutes. The other one, see if I can go the right direction with this. Some more of the books by Shel Silverstein are Where the Sidewalk Ends, and a book of poetry, A Light in the Attic, and another book, Hello Red December 2. And another book is The Giving Tree. I have always wanted to read that. I forgot about who wrote it. When I started looking up the poetry for The Mustan's Child, then I found out who the author was and found that book. I was like, I've been wanting to read that book for like forever. So I have to look up the book when at some point or find it and buy it because it was a very unique way of presenting something. It was like it wasn't just about giving; it was receiving. It was about giving. Yeah, that's probably why it took me so long crying when you read that The Giving Tree. I know I read it when I was younger. I know I cried, and I was like, I have to find this book because it's like every kid should read this book. And some of the other books by Shel Silverstein. Um, I'm going to reread Listen to the Mustard's Child because it's been about 15 minutes into the live stream. So Unpaved Explorer got to hear it. I'm going to read it one more time. And I probably got like 10 more minutes before I'm going to exit. And let's see. Um, so listen to the Mustard's Child. Listen to the Mustard's Child. Listen to the don'ts. Listen to the shouldn'ts, the impossibles, the won'ts. Listen to the never haves, then listen close to me. Anything can happen, child. Anything can be. Shel Silverstein. That was my first favorite poet. My first favorite poet. I remember going through the memorization of trying to remember Listen to the Mustard Child. I used to know it by heart. And I think that poem that teacher, Miss Evans, read to us. Okay, I see you, Miss Unpaved Explorer. Miss Evans read that to her class, and I'm pretty sure that the books that she chose made a difference to a point where all her students, or a majority of her students, did strive to succeed in some way. No one just dropped out. and she tried to keep tabs with some of her students after they left. Like, I remember writing her when I was either 15 years old or 14 years old. Hey, Ray from Van Life Rocks. And when I wrote her, I told her I remember her reading the book Matilda, and I didn't know how to get a hold of it. And I was still a teenager, so I didn't have a job. And after I wrote her, she sent me the book again in the mail. It was a book that she gave me when I was 10 and I was getting ready to move from that school. And somehow she realized I really, really liked that book. And she sent it with me, and she had all the students in the class sign the book and send the book off with me. And I know I still got that book somewhere. I put it up with all my other favorite keepsakes. And I'm going to read another poem from Shel Silverstein. Let's see. Oh, Shel Silverstein also wrote Falling Up and A Lighthouse in the Attic. Here's one from a poem from Where the Sidewalk Ends. Invitation. If you're a dreamer, come in. If you are a dreamer, a wisher, a liar, a hoper, a prayer, a magic bean buyer. If you're a pretender, come sit by my fire. For we have some flax golden tales to spin. Come in, come in. And I don't know if my screen freezes up when I do that and you can hear me, but you can't see me. Oh, yeah, Red December, my memory is not as good now, but the stuff that I remember from over the years, I haven't forgotten a lot of that. I remember almost every one of my teachers' names from the time that I was in kindergarten. Um, hey, The Gathering Within. I like your little icon. And I remember my kindergarten teacher, her name was Miss Adams. First grade was Miss Mims. Second grade was Miss Talbert. Third grade was Miss Barrow. I think that's how you say her name. I never really kind of got that pronunciation. I would just kind of like mumble it when I'm asking her, trying to raise my name to get her attention because I couldn't be sure I was saying it right. And she was really strict looking. She was my third grade teacher. You're welcome. And she never, I don't remember her smiling. So I was scared to ask her stuff, but she wasn't mean. She was on the strict side. She wouldn't, take the little kid excuse stuff, and she made you where you were more responsible for your actions because she wouldn't just be like, hey, you can't just keep forgetting stuff and not expect it to affect you. And I don't know how she got us to remember stuff, and she was the one that began teaching us the times tables. Most of the ones that I learned in her class, I didn't forget. um, and then my fourth grade teacher was Miss McDonald. That one was not my year of. If it wasn't for the teacher after her, I think I probably would have gave up on school because she's one of those teachers that when a student is struggling, instead of trying to find other ways to help them, she just makes you feel worse. And the one after her in fifth grade was Miss Evans, and she was the one that, like, because she was that ground between going from elementary school to middle school, I decided I wanted to find out what the other grades were like because it was so awesome being in her class. I only had her for 9 weeks, and in those 9 weeks felt like it was like a whole semester. It was just awesome. And another poem I remember she read to us was from Where the Sidewalk Ends. One sister for sale, one sister for sale, one crying, spying young sister for sale. I'm really not kidding. Who shall start the bidding? That's from Where the Sidewalk Ends. So it's pretty much, I think that's all of my pictures from now. from that poetry. Hey, Adventures in Xanadu. Yes, a great teacher really can change your life. I wanted to be a teacher at one point, and I didn't know that as I was finishing some of my classes to become a teacher, that I was starting to have symptoms of whatever's affecting me now, and my ability to track stuff and to remember things. I thought I was just tired, and because I was working two jobs, going to school, and working with another side job, and then I started doing Uber, driving for Uber. Like, I enjoyed all my jobs, and so I thought I was just tired. Thank you, Xanadu. I love poems. I used to like to do literature stuff, but I didn't like English enough to want to be a literature teacher, which I probably should have. It would have not been as much of a challenge because most of the schools now are mostly focusing on English, adding like other thing bits and pieces of science into English and a little bit of history, but they don't have separate science and history in some schools. I was a teacher to toddlers to kindergarten for 5 years for preschool. Most of the kindergarten teachers that I met, they were like, I got this air of super high energy, like super excited, or it was like the best teachers. Most of the teachers I met, they were kindergarten teachers. They were the best ones to transition from being in preschool or what's the other one, daycare to a preschool environment, because it's like they had so much endless um, energy and so much patience. I only met one or two kindergarten teachers that was like, they're a little strict on those little kids, aren't they? But I mean, two out of like over 20 kindergarten teachers I knew. And then some of my friends later in life, they were teachers. Most of them elementary school, a couple from middle school, and a few from high school. And I really admired those high school teachers dealing with those teenagers. But then I found out there was more hassle dealing with middle schoolers than it was from high schoolers, the ones transitioning to high school. And this day and age, they act like high schoolers in middle school, and but they're like so childlike. Kindergarten was fun. I got in trouble a lot for eating the glue. I never got in trouble for eating the glue, but I will admit I ate the glue. And it was back when it was that white paste stuff, and I don't know why kids eat glue, but that white paste stuff, I remember this. I like the smell, and the taste wasn't bad either. I have no idea why we ate the glue. And then it was because that glue was so good, we would try the finger paints, and I'd get sick every time that week. I was like, rainbow colored tongue. Mom couldn't figure out why I was getting sick. And she was like, "What are you doing?" Well, she didn't give us stuff to wash our hands with. And I didn't like dirty fingers, so I just licked my fingers. So I was doing the finger painting. When I was done, I licked my fingers. Then I'd be like, I'd feel sick later that week. I was like, I don't know how many people would lick their fingers after the finger paint, but I bet a lot of kids did. Let's see. Next time, I will try to remember to bring my own poems because I still have a few more poems that I didn't read the first live stream, and I was gonna show off some of my um, artwork. I haven't even gotten to the top layer of when I started. I think the first couple of drawings I remember I was not in school yet, and I was looking at through the comics part in the newspaper, and I wanted to imitate someone like there was a perfect picture of a cat howling at the moon or get crouched down getting ready to jump on something, and I drew. I don't remember if I did the outline and then filled in the details, or if I drew the outline by guessing how they drew the figure. You missed the naps in kindergarten. I was one of those people, I didn't mind laying down taking naps either. And I got in trouble for putting finger paint on my on her girlfriend. Most kids I remember the first time we had finger paints, everybody got in trouble for marking on somebody. They're like, finger paints, hey, we're putting fingers in it, let's put them on each other. The poor teacher had to deal with some parents that weren't happy. The other parents like, oh, they're just kids. So I don't remember how she figured out how to keep us from doing that, but we didn't the next time. I remember that much. And I remember when we used to do the audio books and they were trying to get us into wanting to read or being interested in reading. And I got to a point where the teacher didn't notice it, but I could remember what some of the words were from from listening to it and looking at the book. And so I was getting to a point where I finally realized that each little, black scribbly, whatever the letters were, and the gaps between each word lets you know then when one word started and the next word ended. And so when she read us that typical book, see Spot run, Spot has the ball, that a lot of teachers use, I was like, oh, she would point to each letter, say it, and then it just dawned on me. Oh, that's how you read. You pay attention to each black, group of letters and then figure out what it sounds like and know that that's a word. Once that happened, I was like, gone. I'm reading. And she didn't really notice I was reading at the time. So a lot of stuff that she did, I was really bored because I'd read ahead and I do the project ahead of time. Like you had to do that project from 1 to 100. Once I got the hang of counting, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 100, I was like, okay, you just continue, just added like a 2 in front of everything, 200, 300, and then she was like looking at me because I like filled out the whole page. We're supposed to be doing it throughout the week. 100 on the first day, 200 on the second day, and I went all the way through the whole week's worth of projects just to like, hey, I'm bored, I'm gonna do this. And I remember she was not happy with that. That was the first time a teacher showed me that they didn't really want you working head on this stuff. But when you get older, they're like, why can't you pace yourself? I mean, get some of this stuff done ahead of time. But when you're certain teachers are like, no, we don't want you to work ahead because we got planned projects. You're thinking, I don't want homework. Let me work ahead because I don't want homework. So you used to mess with my teacher by telling her that cat spells dog. You're one of those kids. I don't remember what type of child I hung with. I just remember his name was Josh. And I remember he was always getting in trouble. But I liked him because he didn't really care what the teacher said. And she was not a nice teacher. Um, she was nice to some of the kids, but I noticed that she was one of those teachers that she was a kindergarten teacher, and you were thinking, how the heck did she become a teacher? Because she would lose her patience really fast. And then all the kids knew it. They hated her, so they would test her. You have little spots and groups. 5 kids over there would start something. They would notice the other kids are starting something, and then they would start something. So she'd run between all the different groups of the kids. And then there's other days we just didn't want to deal with her. She didn't want to deal with us. So we just like, okay, nobody's going to misbehave today. It's funny how our minds figure stuff out when we when we are first learning. Yeah, when we first break the barrier, like, oh, we're allowed to figure out stuff and put this together and that together. What does this make? And then we're like, what does that make? And the teacher's like, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. And you're like, are we here to be creative, or like, how do you learn if you can't be creative? That's what I remember thinking as a child. How do you learn if you can't be creative? You have to do it this way. You have to do it on time. You can only do it at certain times of the day. But then I realized, oh, they're trying to get us to learn schedules and they want us to learn how to wait for different things and then transition to something different. Well, once I figured that out, then I would just do some of it without them knowing and then have do the rest of it that you had to do in class, only in class. And I remember by the time I hit first grade, I could read most of my own instructions. Like when, you had to do +1, +2, and they tell you circle the ones that are odd numbers or whatever. They were teaching us like some stuff that at the other schools during that time was kind of advanced. Like first grade, usually you're just some schools you're just learning how to do the number system and then add basic stuff. But by the time we finished that first grade, it was like second grade work. We were doing um, addition with double numbers, like 22, 25 plus, 20, um, 3 and stuff like that. And we had to figure out how to line everything up. That teacher, I remember, I was kind of bored in her class. We didn't do a lot of experimental stuff, and we didn't do like books and reading and creative stuff. It was like that first grade um, class was a lot like middle school. I remember how I felt middle school and how I felt in that class. And that class is a lot like middle school. And then the next grade, the teacher was all fun. Every project had to be creative. There's colors everywhere. Even when we did multiplication, she made it interesting. We did the multiplication races where you had to get up there and whoever come up with it first, and then you had the candy, and the candy was added to the situation, and that's when I was like, I'm gonna make sure I know all my multiplication because I'm getting that candy. I like playing the flashcard games. I was really fast at answering. Yeah, I remember me and a couple of the students. I remember one was Jeremiah, and the other one was David. I just remember his name, Jeremiah and David. The three of us would always have some type of competition. We would get up there and we try to say as fast as we can, and you didn't even know, sometimes what we were saying, like 23, 25, 2, 10. We were trying to say as fast as we can. And can you imagine 7-year-olds trying to like throw out a number as fast as they can, and they're just like, as that flashcard came up, we barely saw it, and we were just saying the answers. I remember that. And the candy, we had like little bags of candy, and some of them, hey Roy and Becky, and some of them you had like the little bags you got for individual wins and with a little toy in it, and then sometimes you got group wins. And the teachers caught on really fast. The kids that are really fast at math were getting together in groups so they could win. And she started splitting us up. There was one really fast one in each group. When she figured it out, we were like, "Oh man!" Because she used to tell us to pick our groups, so we'd all cluster together real fast, and we always had the candy. And then she was like, "No, I'm gonna start assigning you guys groups." only one had Only had one bad teacher, and she was very angry in fifth grade. I think she didn't like kids. That's kind of how I felt with the teachers that I had that were really mean. And I've had two mean teachers. One of them she had favorites. The other one I don't think she liked most kids. And she would pick a favorite just to, I guess, make the other kids want to try to get what she had. But she would be really mean to most of the other kids, especially the ones that seemed to have more trouble picking up what she was teaching. And I remember trying to help another kid in the areas that I could figure out by myself. But if I couldn't figure it out by myself, then my grade just went down. I got sick. That was the year I got chicken pox. And I got behind on English. And the English was one of the ones that I had a harder time because you started doing like adjectives, subjects, and stuff like that. And you had to like put them in diagrams or little, separate them out. And then you had to write your sentences with the correct form of adjectives or be. It was just, it was a mess that year. But the next teacher was so good that I didn't even have to worry about catching up. She just naturally got us reviewed the last of the fourth grade, and my grades went back up. And because of that, that teacher got investigated because that was the only teacher I ever had grades that had fallen below a B. And the next teacher was like, "Why are her grades this way in this year, but not in any of the other years?" And we found out that she did get removed from being a teacher permanently. She was blocked. Her license was blocked from all schools. Thank you, Roy and Becky, for sharing my video. And I remember in middle school, I decided, I don't know why, I'll be 50 in a little over a week. I'm still behind in English. I said that to somebody in one of the lives. Why is English so hard to learn when you grow up already knowing it and it's still hard to learn? And I'm like, how do some of these foreign people learn our language? And then there's when I started learning Spanish, like this is kind of easy. You got these endings for like, a group of people, a few people, him, her, and then you have like ing endings. All the words, the action words had a certain ending that was just like our ing words, like looking and stuff like that. But I was like, if I had learned this language, it would have definitely been hard to learn English because it was easier to learn the other language than it was to learn English. I don't really know it fluently, but I still remember a lot of it. Unpaved the sport. I got puddled in third grade by Miss Hill for pulling a girl's hair who cut in front of me in line for Halloween candy. That was a typical thing around that age, third grade, anywhere from third grade to fifth grade. That's when I remember boys starting to pull my hair was in fifth grade. That's when I realized that I wasn't. I guess I smiled more in that grade. In fourth grade, I didn't smile much because the teacher would just make me miserable. When we started splitting up classes at the end of fourth grade, that's when the other teachers started becoming aware that something was weird with that teacher because when they had me in their class, I wasn't misbehaved as she made it sound misbehaved. She misbehaves. And what I really was doing was I was not listening to her because she made me miserable. And the meaner she got, the less I listened. So I started drawing excessively in her class. And that's when I first realized you can get in trouble for drawing. I was listening, but I was drawing because the part that she was going through at the time I started drawing was stuff that we'd already learned in third grade. But then once I realized she was a mean teacher and she would like go out of her way to like she would even roll her eyes at me when I'm looking at her. So then I started ignoring her. All other teachers didn't have that problem in their class. And they would teach us and if I had a question I would raise my hand and ask questions. Um let me see if I had any other material because I know next time I'm going to do my artwork and then like I'm gonna try to organize it to where like from the time that I was before school, some of my drawings then and kind of like show as they progressed. In fourth grade, I was getting to the point where I would start drawing faces and try to like put makeup on the female faces or um try to start drawing guy faces in fifth grade because some of the other guys were drawing and they would do like what do you call it soldier type guys or like GI Joes and stuff like that. And then I progressed to I realized I really like animals, and so I started learning to draw the animals, which I found that a lot of animals were easier to draw than people. The mower is dead, waiting for the solar to change the batteries. Oh, seeing how the thief stole your charger. Oh yeah, that dude is that guy still stealing? Is it the same? Is it they're still stealing, or is that just from the other times that the stuff was stolen? Because I'll be like, I would rig a trap for this guy. Next time he come over, he might be like, hey, you wouldn't have got stuck in that snare if you hadn't have jumped over my fence. Sometimes it's weird how somebody just like they look at someone else's yard and they think I want their stuff, and then they just figure out how to get in their stuff. I never, as a kid, I never really, I don't remember stealing because I thought it was done for people not to be able to trust you when you're around. And I thought I didn't like how like some kids would be like they would be upset and they didn't realize that their behavior was why other people didn't trust them and they would always wonder why people were watching them. Well, I realized what was going on. So I was well behaved because I wanted freedom. Not because I wanted somebody to like me as a good kid, but because I wanted freedom. By the time I got to be a teenager, I was driving and I was driving my mom's car without having to have her in the car. Got my permit at 14 and started driving at 15. And I could go, she could send me to the store and she knew I'd come back. Even if there was a friend in the car. Take care, Unpaid Explorer. Thanks for coming by. And I'll try to keep smiling. And one of the time my friend was like, "Hey, why don't we go to some place to get some drink?" And I'm pretty sure she's talking about a bar. I didn't know the name, but I'm pretty sure she's talking about a bar because there's always that kid, and if you watch school shows, there's always that one friend that wants everybody to do what they shouldn't do. I was like, you should know me by now. If mom didn't tell me there's a place I can go or a place I know I shouldn't go, I'm not going. So I told her no. And she was trying to get me, hey, nobody will ever have to know and all that stuff. I said, no. I said, I just got these keys and I'm keeping them. And I told mom, I was like, she was trying to keep me from going, trying to encourage me to go somewhere else. She didn't ever ask me for a ride again because that's all she wanted to do was get into a vehicle and go where she shouldn't go. I was like, that's not happening. Um, I guess I had some of the friends I had, they were either really nerdy or they just hung out with me at school. And that might be because they wanted to keep the grades up or because I was just a nice person. But when it came to hanging out and they wanted to do something fun, and I was like, you can do something fun without doing something bad. Then they were like, don't invite her because she's going to be like, I'm telling your mom, I'm telling your dad. And they're like, why do you got to be like that? I said, because you're doing something that's dangerous. And if they don't know where you are and something happens, you'll be one of those people on one of those shows that was like, I didn't know if anybody was ever going to find me. Why? Because you told your parents you're going to be somewhere else and you went somewhere different. And that was a place that people our age should not be. Um, let's see if I can find one more poem that I had by Shel Silverstein was the person I was talking about today that did the book The Giving Tree, the book of poems, A Light in My Attic. Um, they did Where the Sidewalk Ends, and I read a couple of poems from Where the Sidewalk Ends, and the Listen to the Mustard Child, which was my most favorite poem of all time. I wrote it into my poetry book so that I would always have that to read, um, either for encouragement to remind me of those days that when you're a child you have like big, I don't know if it's really big dreams, but you have a motivation to do more and to try to do as much as you can to be, um, I guess, creative. We don't really realize it, but we really want to be as creative as possible when we're kids. When we get older, we're just like, I'm not really that good at that, and not gonna make me money, so I may not do it. But some of us just keep doing it, and then we eventually realize that, hey, that actually, if I stuck to it, that actually ended up putting me somewhere where I'm not, where everybody else is doing the 9 to 5 you don't want to do. And let's see, I don't really see. Hey, Sharina, is it Sharina? I think I'm saying it right. Stopping in to say hello. Thank you for showing me some love and support. It's been a while since I've been able to keep up with the live streams with the heat because the my van where I can stay the most is safest for me because I have to use a walker and I have to have help preparing some of my meals. I can have prepared meals and then take them with me and go somewhere cool. But it's been so hot, I can't find a place that's cool enough for me to be. But last week was kind of cool, and I realized that I was like, oh, I'm so used to now trying to stay out of heat that I missed my chance to go take the van and go to like the river that I'm always, posting about, or go to some a place that's I'm on a dirt road, and there's another like side stream. I could go there and set up, but I think I prefer to go to the river where there's a lot of people because you don't want something weird happening like snake bite or something, and you're on the back road. Um, Take care, Ray. Thank you for coming. I'm just about to close anyway. It's at 2 o'clock, so I managed to make it just a little under 2 hours. I run out of a little material because I thought I was just going to do 30 minutes. Yeah. And here in Arkansas, we have snakes everywhere. Most of them are either black, brown, or some type of dirt color or green, something where you can't really see them. And of course, you have a lot of vegetation, so they have a lot of places to hide. But I know that when it's really hot, stay away from rocky areas because that's where snakes and the scorpions, everybody wants to get up under the rocks and stay cool. And we have caves in somewhere in the area during the fall before the bears would normally hibernate. I don't know if they hibernate in Arkansas. If they do, it's very brief. But there's a time where the bears are in the fall. The bears are going to places where it's quieter, and so I'll look in the caves with friends. Um, with the walker, it's a little harder to do that, but there are places where there's like a pathway that's all dirt and it's easy to get to them because a lot of people go through there. So the bears don't set up because humans are always going through there. I kind of like how the area has the caves, but at the same time, it's kind of scary. Like, why are there so many hollow areas in this area? In that area, there's like the water carved out really easy, or some type of erosion, and there's a lot of soft like sandstone and limestone type um, structures, rock structures, and some of the hills have holes in those. But then there's like a lot of water, like pouring out everywhere. Um, where my mom and my brother stay, they have land that has a stream running between the hills, and it's like almost like broken into four quadrants. It used to be cow pasture. Thank you, Roy and Becky. I used to talk when I was little, and I think that's where I get that. When I was younger, we would have this long 2 hour ride from school. They would pick us up. I'd have to get up at 5:30, and they would pick us up, and we'd get on the bus by 6:30, and we'd have to and yes, either 6 o'clock. We'd have to be on the bus by 6 o'clock, and that trip would get us there a little bit before 8. So we sometimes had 5 minutes to eat. But on those trips, me and my friends, there's three of us. Sometimes my brother would join or my sister would join. We'd get this little acting thing, like we were in our imagination acting it out. And just one year, one of the older kids from high school, we were in middle school, the first part of middle school, and one of the older kids in high school, like, sometimes I love these rides because you guys are just like acting out this whole story, and we can see what guys are doing because you're describing it and you're responding to each other in that scene. And I used to do those with my sister when I was a little kid. I'd make a scenery and a place that we're at, and then we would kind of react to it, kind of like how the old we call them game masters did, which I didn't know about that until I got older. They would set up an environment, tell you what was in the environment, what's going on, and then you would respond to the environment and you make a story. So um, I kind of like that's why I guess I'm focusing more on my live streams on the creative stuff because at some point, hey, Kenneth Foreman, aka Kenneth Oaks, at some point I'm going to put some of those creative ideas together and just kind of like do like a running storyline, kind of a short series or a long series. I don't know if it's going to be short or long, but it kind of like interesting things that I thought of when I was a child and put it into words. And some of the ideas that came up as a adult and put those into words would be like stories that add on to each other. And as I add on to the story, read that online and try to see if I can like write enough to be like an hour worth of story. And then like, have people respond to what's going on in the story. And then what would you do in this situation kind of like thing so that my lives will be more interesting. I'm doing just once a month right now because I have to have time to get those things together. And I was in the middle of transitioning when I started my lives. I don't know if you hear that. It's my sister in the background. Um, so she's expecting me to come hang out with her in a little bit. And so I will start closing down. But that's my idea is that my live streams are going to have like creative stuff on there. And some of those stories might be from my sister if she lets me borrow some of her stories because she likes to write. I told her some of my stories, and if she wants to write them, she can write them. She's like, you just make sure you give me my cut. Hey, if I get famous, or if I do end up starting, I will make sure that people that were who contributed to that are part of that, success, and make sure that everybody knows about it. She loves writing, but she was always kind of embarrassed to let people read her stories because she's kind of like, when it comes to writing, she's a little bit of a perfectionist, but she's really good at knowing a good story and telling you what makes it a good story. So she's gonna kind of be my editor when I, get going really good with the writing. Um, I have some stories that I wrote as a child, but they're locked in my computer, and since I don't have Wi-Fi, and I don't, well, I guess I could set it up somewhere. I can find a way to set it up and see if I can get it on there. I don't know if I have it on a drive and I need Wi-Fi to get it off the drive, or if it's saved to my computer. So I'll have to look through that. But I have a computer that's an old desktop, and if I can get it started, I can pull some of those stories out and start writing it with my hand and putting the scenes I put together. Like one of them, I wanted to name the story Bubbles, and it's a ridiculous name, which is why I'm keeping the name. But when you read the first part of the story, it's talking about how it remembers, and you don't really know it's a it, how it remembers looking up from a shadow on the rock, and it describes a leathery skinned, long necked creature from a puddle, and watching the mouth come down and drink the puddle that was where it lived, and becoming um, engulfed by that creature. And then all the rest of I don't know if I'm going to call it a hive. I might find another word for it because I'm not really hive minded. But all the rest of them, to survive, they gather in groups and they find a way to survive in the body of the creature. And instead of becoming a parasite, they become symbiotic. And then they describe what happens in the body of that creature from that creature's point of view. Like they're communicating with the brain of the creature. And it kind of skips to back to the present where someone's digging in one of those deep dig sites, and they notice something weird, and they get into it, and it's their first introduction um to this group of creatures that makes it where they're no longer buried, and they're now going to begin what they did back when the dinosaurs were alive. Um, and the death of the dinosaurs wasn't because of the creatures, because they actually witnessed the fireball, which everybody, some people believe is some big comet, meteorites or something hit and wiped them out, and then caused volcanoes and stuff. So some of that's going to be in the description. I remember that part that I wrote in the story is just a scene, and then later in the present is a scene where the person who dug them up got into some stuff, thinking, what's this bubbly stuff? Because if you're a person's been out in the natural world, you find areas where there's like foamy water, and you know that you need to stay away from that foamy, bubbly water. Kids don't know that. You have to teach them that. Well, this is a city slicker. He's out there digging because they found that there's like oil, but in that area he's digging for the oil, he comes across this stuff, and he's like puts his hand in it. Well, he's an older man, and he finds out when he does this and he cleans it off with water, he finds that his hand, the skin on the back of his hand, is no longer wrinkly, and it no longer has liver spikes. So he's thinking, okay, I found something else that's going to give me money. And then that's the cliffhanger. So I'll have to put that together, where that story is the one I want to be what I read on my live stream. So I have to like write a good bit of it. So I might like give you little pieces and bits of it. For right now, that's just, a taste of what I plan on doing on some of my live streams. So I'm gonna go ahead and close out because I'm reaching the hour, and I know everybody's got somewhere to be, and I got some family that I'm gonna go visit. And thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Roy, Becky, Strina, Ray for Ray's already took off. Ray from Van Light Rocks, Adventures in Dana and Xanadu, and Fordman, aka Kenneth Oaks. Thank you much for hanging out with me and coming to visit me on a live stream. So I'm going to go ahead and end it. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Thank you, Xander. I want to really make that story like something that our community has that we know about, and everybody can like share parts of it. And then I'm gonna put it in a hard copy on pages and kind of like make it one of those stories that kind of continue, and eventually it might have an end, but it doesn't have to end. So thank you for coming, guys. Take care. And